Yeah.
How about you? When did you first hear about cryptocurrency?
I think it's just mostly just with like through friend groups and stuff, like the few memes and all that kind of stuff, like just
Yeah.
heaps of stuff through social media and yeah, a bunch of my friends were investing in it, and I'm genuinely a very like curious person, I would say. So when something like new comes out, I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll have a look at that and like have a dive into it and kind of understand it and be like, oh, like kind of see where this could go, like in this area or here, and yeah, just for interest's sake. So I kind of started reading up on it. I was like, oh, all right. And then like after a little bit, started dabbling in a little bit of investing and just here and there. And then that's kind of when like
You're not long out of uni, is that right?
Yeah, I was out of uni last year.
Okay.
But technically, I actually have not finished because I have 2 papers left. Because last year I had shoulder reconstruction and I had to take a few papers off, and then I was supposed to go back this year, and then I got sucked into like the. So I started working in tech and software, and then I was like really interested in like startup space, and I've been for a few years now, and like getting more and more immersed in that space. And then the start of this year, like kind of started taking up like a lot of my time. And then that's obviously when I met like Zeffing and the team at Senkusha, and then like I joined that, and then I was like, okay, there's like no chance that I've got time to like go back to uni. So I've like got the classic, yeah. I'm not sure.
It sounds like you've got a full plate. They might say, is your shoulder all right?
Yeah, shoulder's it's probably like 90%. I think that's probably as good as it'll get from now. But,
I'm curious about, since you are so not long out of or almost out of uni, what's the scene like at university amongst your peer group? Are people talking about this stuff, or is it like a real niche?
So this is a bit of a curveball again. I studied medical science or physiology at UOA, and so I was at Grafton like just 100% of the time, and I never heard med students talk about this, but med students are just all med. That's
right. And Grafton campus, that's exclusively the med school.
Exclusive.
Okay.
So I didn't hear any like crypto talk or blockchain or Web3 or anything from them.
Right. You were a long way from the computer nerds.
Yeah. So I like a group of my friends are like they're like coders, software engineers, inside, all like kind of techie jobs. And then so that was like my group of friends. But then I studied obviously medical science, and so I had like very contrasting groups at throughout the week, just like you go. Yeah.
So then how did you meet Zifang? That's your co-founder?
Yeah, Zeffing and Terry, who's like the CTO, and through all my friends and stuff, that's kind of how I got into the tech space and into startups as well. So I met Zeffing at an event of Ash's, who's our first artist. We just randomly met. I was like, yeah, how's it going? And like, having like that small talk. And then we started talking about startups and businesses and stuff. And then I was like, oh, this guy, like, he knows his stuff. And I was like, and then so we started talking more and more. And he's like, oh, you should start telling me about like this idea he had, which was Senkusha. And he's like, yeah, I'm just like, kind of validating a little bit at the moment. And do you want to take a look sometime? And I was like, yeah, of course. I love like talking about, just stress testing and like, bouncing ideas and all that kind of stuff. So we met up and went to my favorite ramen spot in Auckland, Artisan Ramen. Shout out to them. They do the best ramen.
I'll have to check it out.
And went there and we started talking, and then he like shared some documents, and I was reading up and about the ins and outs, and then kind of shared the why behind Senkusha as well, which I thought was really cool. And that was kind of partly why I joined as well in the first place.
So how about you give us an overview of Senkusha and then tell us why?
Yeah, awesome. So Senkusha is the first 100% blockchain-based crowdfunding platform where people can go and invest in talented early stage artists and help them reach new career heights, essentially. And that's achieved through non-equity based NFT projects, and 100% of the funds go to the artist. So how that works is we'll find a talented young artist who needs financial support and kind of talk with them and analyze where they're at in their career and see where they kind of benefit the most from some financial support. And then we'll like build an NFT project around them, create a tiered benefit system that they can offer their supporters and investors and fans, and then launch a project, sell out, and then manage that fund that's raised. So it's spent on the things that we outlined before the project started. And so essentially, the way I kind of look at Senkusha, it's like a mix of angel investing and Kickstarter, and with like the added benefit of getting, access to unreleased content from artists, getting free tickets to shows, free merchandise, and all of those kind of things.
That's a good way to do it, right? Every startup needs to have a nice one-liner like this to get people thinking about what it could be. So a mix of angel investing, which is sort of small-scale investing, and it's usually quite hands-on or quite personal. Mixed with Kickstarter, which is kind of the opposite, which is famous crowdfunding platform where you can kind of just browse, find cool projects that you think might work out in the long term, invest a small amount or a large amount, and depending on, you mentioned a tiered structure, so depending on the tier that you invest at, you could be entitled to different levels of benefits.
Exactly, yeah. So what you find with, kind of Kickstarter, I guess, is like a lot of it's more just donation-based, and so we kind of wanted to create a bit more of like a two-way value prop, right? So these people can invest or support, but if you're a fan, then you get like exclusive content that isn't available to anyone else, and that's kind of how we see it.
And so earlier you mentioned that it's non-equity. What do you mean by that?
So non-equity based, meaning that we don't want to be like a music label that takes equity of or sells equity of an artist. We don't want them to have to sell their brand to or give up equity of their brand to raise money. And we don't think they should have to do that. I think that's kind of partly a bit of a problem in the music space at the moment, and we've seen over the few years, like.
It sounds to me as an outsider like a massive problem, actually.
Yeah. I think it's a pretty big problem, but it is a little bit corrupt in my opinion. They take a huge amount of equity, and it's very kind of a bit of a they like dictate exactly what the artist does and stuff, and we wanted nothing to do with that. And so if you invest in these projects, you get these benefits, and you get to kind of ride the journey of with the artist, but you don't own a part of their brand. But the way it's structured, you still benefit from their growth and everything. So I really like that kind of value prop.
Right. I think that's quite a good thing to strive for, this idea. I mean, this idea of ownership is so tricky when it comes to a lot of sort of blockchain solutions that get thrown at the wall. It's like, oh, we're going to use blockchain to, decentralize the ownership, or like you're going to, if you buy this NFT project, you're going to get a piece of the ownership. And it sounds great, and it sounds like it could solve some problems, but when you start to look at it, it can be quite difficult. There's a project called Particle, which currently I think they only have one painting. They bought a Banksy painting. They split the so they bought a Banksy painting. They cut it. They didn't cut it. This is important. They didn't destroy the painting. They still have it.
Oh, okay.
But digitally, they cut it into 10,000 squares, and then they auctioned off the squares as NFTs, so that if you have one of these squares, then you have 1/10,000th of a Banksy. And so at first glance, you think, oh, I can, as a pleb, own a piece of a famous artwork, right? I think they paid like $10 or $11 million for this art, right?
Yeah.
But then you sort of get into the legal details, and you're like, well, not quite. So, I think ownership is tricky, and I definitely admire you for trying to tackle this problem in terms of not going down that path and making sure that the artists get what, or keep and earn what they are entitled to. So just about artists in general. You're talking about musicians. That's
Yeah.
Ash your first? What do you call Ash, a client?
It's like I guess we just call them like I guess in general we'd call them talent, right?
Talent.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we're looking at going. So we're focusing on musicians at the moment because we think it's a really good place to start, and then we'll move more broadly out to like athletes and just talented people in general, artists, musicians, athletes, yeah, and really kind of there's no really limit on. We just focus on talented people, I think.
Yeah, talent in general. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, and you kind of already touched on it, is how are you going to find talent, and how personal is the interaction there compared with like, can I ring you up and say, hey, I'm an artist, can you help me?
I think at this stage, like definitely, like we've definitely had a bunch of artists like reach out already and talk with us, which is really good. I think for artists, there's like no real downside because they don't have to give up anything, and so we don't really have a problem at the moment with finding artists because I feel like it's a very attractive proposition for them.
Okay.
And
expand on that, like from their point of view.
Yeah, from their point of view, it's very attractive because they're not giving up equity. There's no risk involved for them. They don't have to there's no payments or anything. Senkusha covers all the costs, and so really there is no risk. But there's such a good opportunity for reward, and so finding artists, I think, has been a really fun and easy part of the process. You just get to talk with people, and it's awesome.
Okay, so let's talk about money. How does Senkusha plan on making money then, since the artist is keeping 100% of the proceeds?
So there'll be two ways that Senkusha makes money and stays profitable, which will be through royalties. So as when a project sells out and then two different people these are trading to new fans or new supporters or within the community, Senkusha will take a small percentage of the trading, and then there's also a service fee for when the NFTs are minted off the site of Senkusha initially.
Okay, so fee structure and potential royalties. So royalties, straight away I think of like music royalties. Artists probably don't see many of them, and that sort of props up record companies or media companies if they have, it must be part of a numbers game, right? If you sign 100 people, one person makes it, then those royalties can prop up the next 99 that maybe don't make it. And this sounds, like a terrible model because there's not equitable sharing and artists are giving up a lot. So do you have a plan around royalties? What's your thoughts there?
In terms of like, what is our plan with?
Yeah, is there a split for the artist as well?
Oh, right, yes. So I think to incentivize like the artist it's in their best interest to keep growing their community and interacting as well. I think, giving them a percentage of the royalties is important. And, if they do really well, then they deserve some of that, right? So I think it'll be, I'm not sure if I should say the number.
That's fine.
I think, I don't know if I should say the number, but.
It's in the works then.
Yeah, it is in the works. It's they'll have a good proportion of the royalties at this stage just to incentivize and because, we think they deserve it.
And can we expect to see some MP3s, like some music being minted as an NFT? Is that part of this?
I think, that'd be a cool thing to do as well. I even talked with Ash and he was like, their first project is tied with like his lifestyle freestyle song that's coming out. And we were dabbling with doing it for the first one, but I think we'll go down the track a little bit and release some MP3s and some clips of maybe like break up a whole song and put it into the project or like little things like that. I think there's a lot of cool things that can be done.
Some people, it seems like, are getting really creative with it. By people, I mean musicians, right? With, taking control of their work. Have you been following what Mike Shinoba from Linkin Park and Fort Minor?
I haven't seen what he's done. What has he done?
What he's been doing. He recently released an NFT collection that's all MP3s, and he did a layered version, just like you see with profile pictures. Only the layers are like different drum track, right? Different vocal track as well. And so when you got a mint, you never knew exactly what you were getting. You had an idea because you could hear some samples, I think, before the mint, but you didn't know exactly what music you were getting.
Right.
And so I thought that was really, really unique and kind of, I mean, as far as I know, he's the only one that's done something like that so far. But there's definitely a lot happening like in the broader music space. And of course, we've seen art blow up as well this past year, whether that's
100%, yeah.
Whether that's for good or for evil, I'm not too sure.
I think for artists, I think it's really good for artists in terms of like musician wise, because of how the industry is at the moment, gives them a lot of freedom, gives like power back to them, which is great. Yeah.
Right. So here's a pretty standard blockchain question. Why NFTs? Like this past year, especially, we've seen a lot of projects blow up. People think, oh, this is a great new thing. And then, essentially the creators or the distributors walk away, take the funds, don't follow through on their promises, which has really sort of led to a negative stench in the NFT space just in the last little while. Yeah. Now, those people that are hardcore into the tech, they know that this isn't going to last forever and we'll come through it. But yeah, why NFTs?
I think, like I said, that's a great question. I think the technology behind NFTs allows us to do multiple things that weren't possible in the past or weren't possible to do well in the past. And those things are things like tracking, authenticity, and the immutable side of things, and the being able to trade that. And with Senkusha, when we create an NFT project around an artist, that's now tied with that artist and their career, and that's out there forever. So obviously for us, being able to have something that someone can trace all the way back to being published with us is really important, because these things we're only releasing a small amount of these things, and they're very they offer exclusive benefits and whatnot. So I've lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Well, yeah, the provenance there is really important, right? Because let's talk about a example. I saw recently, like there was like a Premier League football match in England where it was in France. It was in Paris. And it was one of the final matches. If anyone is a football fan, I should know more what I'm talking about, but I'm not. Anyway, someone hacked the system, printed a whole bunch of fake tickets and sold them.
Oh, I did see that.
So thousands of people showed up under the impression they had purchased a legitimate ticket. Like thousands of people suddenly can't fit in the stadium, right? And so this idea of provenance, I think in theory it can solve these problems.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Regarding blockchains, I saw on your website that for the first mint that you have, you can do it on OpenSea. And so that means it's on Ethereum. And was there any main reason why you chose to do it that way?
Yeah, there was some reasons. We, as a team, the founding members all back ETH, and we believe in ETH 2.0, the classic ETH 2.0 narrative. I know. But yeah, there's obviously some shortcomings of ETH, like the gas fees. But we used, our CTO Terry sorted out. So we use IPFS, and that essentially stores the media file for the location of the NFT,
right?
Instead of storing like an entire MP3 clip on the blockchain, and obviously that saves a lot of money on gas fees. So we're using ETH for the first one, but we're also Senkusha will be using. We'll be able to use multiple blockchains in the future.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you're not planning on. Well, I guess nobody would be planning on it, but you're not just going to stick with that. You are planning on being sort of a multi-chain. Yeah. Did you look at any of the other type of marketplaces, like on Solana or on Tezos or anything like that?
We did take a look, but we still decided to go with OpenSea and with ETH just because I don't know. We didn't want to play in too much of the spec area, especially for our first couple projects. I think once we expand, have multiple tens of hundreds or whatever projects, we can start to we can get into those kind of blockchains and more away from the big ones if it makes sense.
Yeah, earlier you mentioned about immutability and this idea that if an artist mints some of their creative work, or if a fan or a supporter purchases, some token in that manner, the idea of being able to have it for a long, long time is very attractive. And in that sense, I guess you got to go with Ethereum.
Yeah.
These things are all still kind of experiments, but especially given the recent climate in crypto, who knows how long some of these other projects are going to be around for. But I think Ethereum is probably a good choice there. So do you have any idea how much is it going to cost me
to mint?
To do a mint, to do your first mint?
I think it'll be less than $20 to do the in terms of the gas fees and whatnot. And our first that's NZD.
Yep.
Our first NFTs are going to be worth are worth $40 New Zealand, so about $28 USD. And an ETH for those who only work in ETH is about 0.024, I think.
Okay.
So it's a very low entry point, and that's because for our first artists, we only raise what we need to raise for the artist, and we worked out that it only needed to be 10,500 USD, and obviously we couldn't have a collection that was only like maybe 100, because especially if a few people bought multiple, then our community's like 30 people or 40
that's
people.
Right, yeah.
There was logistical problems like that, so we decided we're gonna have a really low entry point, and there's 375 in the collection, so it's a bit better.
Yeah, there's a trade-off there. You do see this sometimes when companies or funds put out an open call for investments. You might like the idea of having lots of smaller investors. It has definitely happened in the NFT space as well. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, where someone can come in and mint up the whole collection in one go, and then you're like, what just happened? As a collection manager or as Senkusha, you would probably just be really heartbroken and pissed off. There's a lot of areas like that, like growing pains that NFTs have kind of exposed with people trying to experiment with these new project types. You mentioned that you figured out what the artists needed to raise. So this is working with the artist. And I also like that on your website, there's a bit of transparency there. There's like a list of sort of what the funding is going towards. And so do you know, will there be any sort of receipt or recognition of that? Or is that sort of in good faith, the artist is planning on purchasing these things and doing this work?
Yeah, so part of what we do is not just like finding the talent and creating the project and running that, but it's afterwards as well with like managing the fund as well. Because obviously people want to know, we want to make sure that the money's spent on what we set out to spend the money on and raise for. So we'll manage, once there's been a successful raise, Senkusha will manage that fund, and the artist will just have to bring like proof that they've let's say it was a new mic, they'd have to just prove that they purchased that, and then Senkusha will reimburse.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a management aspect there to it, and is that, I guess, just to protect investors, give some reassurance?
100%. Yeah. Otherwise, especially when Senkusha grows, let's say we've got 100 projects at the same time. The first project obviously is very intimate, and we're very hands-on. But if we've got 100 projects, it's going to be less hands-on, and we need to be able to prove that this fund is being used accurately.
For sure.
And so it'd be very problematic when we grow if we didn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see you acting as like a between a classic media company and like a DAO, whereby, you know, the DAO, maybe it can work if you set everything up perfect at the beginning to do sort of an automatic distribution, but you have a more personal, hands-on approach, and you're going to step in and manage that. And obviously, any artist that comes to you and asks for your services is going to be in agreement of this at the front.
Yeah. And I think that the idea of the DAO is like definitely something we want to move towards. Like obviously this first project is very hands-on. And then as as we speak, the CTO is creating a system, like an AI automation system that screens talent and verifies the information that they bring forward. And so that's like a part of kind of automating, and then we're also down in the future looking to kind of get more decentralized. Obviously, the more decentralized, the better, especially when you're using blockchain.
Yeah.
I guess like it goes against the ethos a little bit if you have like a very, very centralized system based on a decentralized system. It's a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah, decentralized in name only is one of the criticisms of much that's happening. Yeah. So when can I mint?
You can mint the 30th of this month.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll be releasing in a few weeks' time our first project, and yeah, like I said before, 375 NFTs, and the entry point's $40, and we're going to be having an event. You're more than welcome to come. It's on the 30th of July. We're holding it at the Anthology Lounge on K Road. Yeah. And
so Ash Supé, he's a musician, and part of the project is art. Who's doing that art?
So a good friend of Zeffing has completed the art, and it kind of follows the journey of Ash, who's like I said, our first artist, and I think he's an exceptional human being. Like, I'll kind of give a bit of a background to the.
I did watch your clip that you have of him, and he says that he was like got in to be a software intern at a big tech company.
Yeah.
And then like he's also a hip hop artist. Like,
it's actually I think it's a great story. Like he almost had like a perfect GPA and perfect record from university as a data scientist, and then he finished that, got his internship with a big tech company. But it's been amazing to see his progression and whatnot over the past year, 18 months. I just think it was an exceptional decision. Like, he chose to choose music because it made him happy, and he felt like he could have like a really positive effect with his music. And like I said, I really respect that. And that going on to the art as well, I think that's where we kind of followed that narrative with his art. It's the name of his art is the Baby Supé. Okay. And it kind of it represents Ash's journey, and everyone has a dream, I think, but it gets easily lost in today's world with kind of like the monotony of regular life, which is like going to uni and then getting a job and then, I don't know, getting a dog and then getting a house and then you get married and
lots of grinding.
Yeah, it's just like you've got these like just regular career progressions and milestones to hit in life, and I think kind of represents breaking free of that and chasing your dreams and facing a little adversity, and I like that narrative.
So what's next? What's chapter 2 in terms of your plan for Senkusha?
The immediate phase 2 would be to build out the AI automation side of the platform, and so we can take on a lot more artists and talent at the same time. And then in the long term for Senkusha.
Yeah, go long term. Tell me a vision.
I find this. I love the long term vision that we have for Senkusha. It's you know, we aim high, and our long term is for our Senkusha to be the high risk allocation for hedge funds and private equity firms to allocate like a small portion of their portfolio to us as to invest in, you know, what we'd call like the Senkusha 500, which is like, I guess the S&P 500, but Senkusha version, which is our
I like it.
top performing 500.
These are people, not companies, people.
Yeah. And you get to invest and get a blanket exposure to, you know, the top performers, and it kind of gets the traditional investment market into, I guess, Web3.
And again, the structure there could be like a royalties based, something like that.
Yeah, I think that could be an option for sure, 100%.
I mean, as it is with investments, although you hope that there's a return, there isn't always a return. And what you're referring to there is that funds will have sort of rules and limits, and they can put a small portion into something that's considered higher risk. So, you know, why not have them, you know, invest in local talent or invest in talent wherever they are, wherever you are.
100%, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And what was your co-founder, what was Zifeng's vision from the early days of Senkusha?
This was, he like, I can't speak highly enough of Zifeng. Like, he's part of the reason why I joined the team. I think, you know, you work with people that, I think, what's the saying? So Warren Buffett or someone says, like, if you wouldn't work with them for a day, for a lifetime, don't work with them for a day. And I worked with Zifeng for a few weeks, and I was like, oh, this guy's, you know, he's the real deal.
What I'm getting at here is you told me a why story when we spoke before about motivation for doing the whole project.
Yeah. And that's actually, like probably half of the reason why I also joined as well was, you know, the team, and then a really important why. And I think what Zifeng was, you know, he's had a lot of success in his early years, and but he's telling me when I was first looking at joining Senkusha, and he feels like, you know, he's had a lot of success, but he's also had a lot of opportunities, and he's self-aware enough to know that he's like, you know, not a lot of people get these opportunities in life, and I think there's a lot of talented people. There's a lot of people that work really hard, very intelligent, but they just don't get the opportunities that, you know, maybe some people like I have had before. And so he was like, I want to, you know, even the playing field, and that's something that I really
I mean, it speaks volumes of his character.
100%, you know, and it aligns with like my morals and how, you know, I want to do business and everything. And so that's kind of where it all kind of started with with Senkusha and the why behind it. And I think that's really important.
So we're almost out of time here. I've been asking everyone, as a member of Blockchain New Zealand, what do you reckon that an organization like this can do to help the industry? Or even you can make it more personal. Why did you join an organization like this?
So I'll start with, you know, why did we join? I think in this space at the moment, when we spoke at the start, like you mentioned, there are, you know, rug pulls, and there are some bad eggs in the industry at the moment. And I think being surrounded by other people that are in the industry doing really cool things and offering real value is really important. So that was kind of part of our reason for joining as well. In terms of what I think that Blockchain New Zealand can do for New Zealand and for the community, for the industry, I think it's really a place where people can come to get unbiased, independent knowledge and information, and educate themselves without with knowing that it's doesn't have an agenda, and I think that's really important, especially in the space at the moment, the way the market is, and like I said, with the rug pulls and these kind of things, there's a lot of misinformation out there as well. Obviously there's a lot of things that Web3 can do that to offer really good, like a lot of value for society, and I think you guys offer like a platform to highlight those kind of projects, and I think that's important.
Yeah, hopefully we can keep it up. It's definitely at the front of mind a lot of times, and it can be good also to be reminded of it. You can never sort of let that slide too far. Are you up for some rapid fire?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, first one. I think I know what your answer is going to be. Ramen or fish and chips?
Oh, ramen. That's not even a competition.
Ramen all day. What would be a close second if I didn't know you and I had to pick a second one?
Maybe some like fresh like seafood or something really fresh.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Do your parents know what an NFT is?
Not really. No. I'd say no.
Have you tried to explain to them what Senkusha is?
No. Very, I think, like a one-liner that are like with the least amount of technical jargon in there as possible, and just very, very broad.
NFTs in your portfolio, or Bitcoin, or both?
A bit of both.
A bit of both?
Yeah.
What does Senkusha mean?
Senkusha means trailblazer in Japanese.
Is there a lot of Japanese influence or philosophy in the business?
So it's quite funny. I'm the only one that's Japanese in the co-founding team.
Okay.
Or in the team, and but it's quite funny because Zeffing obviously came up with the name, and then I joined really early on. So I mean, it looks good now because obviously I'm Japanese, but yeah.
Last question. Who do you think Satoshi is?
I think it's awesome. It's like something you see in a movie, It's like that guy who just, I guess, like the same kind of narrative as like Batman in a sense, right? It's just the anonymity is. I think it's awesome. Like,
Batman, I love that. Yeah.
Like like he has that. Especially people in the crypto community are really, they're very hyper and whatnot. So I think it builds a cool narrative.
I would tend to agree.
Yeah.
Tak, thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
Thanks for joining us, folks. Look out for the next episode of the Blockchain New Zealand podcast, probably in the same spot you found this one. Cheers.
It been feel like I'm tripping because I've been living this lifestyle. All I know is that I'm gonna stand out. For the people that tell me to pipe down, 21 had to go pull my knife out. I'm a savage, I'm leaving the baggage, so I cut the negative out of my life now. So I ride for the people that down for me, and shout out to Ali, that's a true homie. In the booth every day, I am not stalling. Roll my dice and now I'll bet my all on it. Not a surfer, but I've been rolling on my own.